It gives me great pleasure to welcome a young chap today. Well, he's laughing because he's young. I think we had the same. I think pretty much all my guests. I keep saying
I'm as grey as you, Clint.
I know, but we're still young at heart, aren't we? Andy Couzens, founder member of the Stone Roses. It's fair to say that without this chap, the Stone Roses wouldn't have existed and things like that wouldn't have been on our shelves. Andy, how are you doing, man?
I'm okay, thanks, Clint.
Great to see you.
Good, yeah.
I think last time I saw you was Abersock. Somebody, was it Abersock? Have I seen you since then?
I must have seen you since then. That was my lad was about that.
That's right, yeah.
So that must be 20 years ago.
I think that's the last time I've seen you socially, I think.
Yeah.
I remember
no middle class, eh?
But I was going to say, how middle class was this sound? You had a MacBook in your lounge in the house that you were in, and it had a iTunes playlist in it.
Yeah.
When all this was new, I remember looking and thinking, what's this all about?
Yeah, that's right. Little speakers are like,
every track in the world's there in front of me, and I'm like, amazing. So is life treating you good?
Yeah, good, yeah, really good, thanks, Clint, yeah.
Right, you're looking well, still smiling.
Thanks, I'm still smiling, yeah.
A lot of them are a bit grumpy now, aren't they, from our generation? You don't smile as much as
I think I'm wearing from the inside out, though, me. I think that's what it is.
Well, we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff to do with Strawberry, which is where we sat, obviously. The actual room where you recorded some of the music we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about The High and some of the other bands that you've been involved with over the years. A lot of chit chat about the Stone Roses, obviously.
Yeah.
Let's start your story. Where did music first? Where do you remember music first impacting on your life?
When I was a kid, the Sweet, funnily enough, and that sort of era.
Yeah.
And my dad managed a band called Candlewick Green.
Wow, I remember that.
Yeah, and they used to rehearse in our lounge.
Right, amazing. So how old would you be then, roughly?
I was still at junior school, so between 8 and 10 probably, I don't know. Yeah,
And they were quite well established, weren't they?
They were, yeah, but they did all that Mecca bingo hall circuit,
right,
all that
later
nonsense,
on,
And so my dad looked after them, so they were always rehearsing in our lounge, and all the gear was in there all the time. And the first time I ever picked a guitar up was I did a school play and I was noddy older for the day. So
brilliant.
With the guitar.
How did you fashion your sideburns?
I had a top hat. I didn't. But I had the top hat with the mirrors on it. Yeah.
Right. So that generation of music, the glam rock scene, was that the first music that sort of affected you?
Very quickly drifted into a Roxy and stuff like that, and then punk came along and
How old were you when punk happened in 1976?
76, I was 14. Was I 14? No, 14.
Yeah, so what are you now, 61?
61, yeah.
61, yeah, I'm 64 and a half.
Yeah, they're 64 and a half.
Actually, I'm weeks away from being 65.
Oh yeah, shit.
Yeah, so the punk thing, have you got any, would you be old enough to see gigs?
I did, I went to loads of gigs, yeah. I never saw the Pistols, that was too early, but I caught the last few shows at the Electric Circus. I went there. Loads of gigs at the Factory, Russell Club and the Mayflower, they're the one on Bellevue there, went loads of gigs there, sort of Clash loads of times, and just everybody basically, apart from the Pistols.
I saw the Pistols at the Electric Circus.
Did you?
One time I saw them, that was December 76.
Right, okay,
well. That was, for me, and I said this in every music related interview that I do, it was my road to Damascus moment, that, everything I wanted to do before that went out the window that night, that was it.
Right, wow.
It changed a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine, But I mean, when I heard all that stuff, it changes everything for you, doesn't it? I don't think it'd do the same now, but there you go. There's nothing that's going to have that, musically, is going to have that impact anymore. It's probably other things.
I think there's still threads of it, and there's still stuff out, like if you listen to Fontaine's DC, that's like a pretty new band from Ireland, very punk rock,
They are, but I don't think they'll have the impact that's what I meant. They're not going to have that impact.
Oh, no. Like what I'm saying is...
There's no cultural impact anymore.
Yeah, the bloodline's still there.
Yeah.
But the revolution doesn't seem set to happen soon, does it?
No, definitely not. No.
But I was down in Brighton last week for a few days, or earlier this week, and it's like everywhere you look, you just see punk rock, to me, in the fashion and the spirit.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm sat there thinking, this started 40 years ago and it's still...
Yeah.
Everywhere I look, every kid that I looked at, every person I looked at, punk's still with us, isn't it?
Yeah, even on our little online games and stuff, the music's still there in it. But I just meant the cultural impact.
Yeah, the revolution. Well, maybe we should kick something off.
I think we're too old for that, Clint.
Yeah, we can have a go, can't we? You know what I mean? Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
I've not got the energy anymore.
I've got some, you can have some of mine. It's all natural as well. So when did you first, what was your first band? Would it be the Patrol, or were you in bands before that?
No, it wasn't. Did I? No, I didn't. No, Patrol, yeah. Skipped forward a few years, yeah. I went to college went to South Trafford College.
Yeah.
And
what studying?
Anything, not to have to do anything else.
Right,
that was the point, yeah.
That's why I went to college.
Funnily enough, I wanted to get away from Stockport, you know, which at the time was a bit of a hellhole, yeah.
It isn't shit anymore.
No, it's not. But at the time, you know, I was desperate to get away from Stockport, so that was the furthest I could go without it being ridiculous, you know, for college anyway. So I went there, and met John and Ian there. Ian and John, it sounds a bit ridiculous now. I gave a lad hiding in the canteen one lunchtime, and Ian was looking for a singer. And he thought it'd be a good idea to ask the punk rocker he'd just seen, giving somebody a good hiding, yeah. So that's how that happened.
It's a good audition, that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it seems a bit stupid now, but yeah.
And who else was in the band at that point?
It was Ian and John, and Cy Wollstonecroft was on drums.
Yeah, Ian was bass, you were singing, and playing guitar.
Yeah.
John,
no, I wasn't playing guitar.
Just singing, right?
Just singing, yeah. I couldn't sing, but
right.
I thought I'd give it a go, you know, why not?
Yeah. And how long did that last before it became the Waterfront via Fireside Chats, was it, the middle band?
It was different. It was the Patrol folded, really. We did some demos in Rusholme, and not long ago we did a handful of gigs, and then probably lasted a year, I don't know, at the most, and then it just folded then, you know. But the Waterfront, or the Fireside Chaps as it was laughingly called, was probably a year or so later, you know, and that was John, Squire, Manny, myself, Chris Goodwin on drums in that, and Kaiser on vocals, old mate Kaiser.
I mean, would that be like 1984 or 85-ish?
83.
83. I remember being with Manny, and we had a band called The Mill, Manny and Chris. Yeah. But he was also hanging out with you guys. I remember him coming in saying, we've come up with this mad name for a band, the Fireside Chaps, you know, the most like un-rock and roll name we could think of. That's right. Do you remember a story about, Chris Goodwin used to tell a story about doing a rehearsal one time, I think in Macclesfield, and he levitated, something ghostly happened. Yeah. What was that story? Because he shit himself about that.
Yeah, he never came back after that, did he?
No, he's gone now, still in Southport. I'm sure people go in haunted to fuck.
Yeah,
moved to Southport.
Yeah, it was my parents' house.
Yeah.
And sounds really flash, doesn't it? But there was one wing of it, was derelict, old Victorian place, and we used to use this room for rehearsals. And we were playing one night, and all of a sudden Chris's bass drum stopped, and we were all engrossed, and we looked round, and he was off the ground.
Wow.
Let's just like that, on his stool, and then bang. And like I say, he never came back afterwards.
Wow.
No, which band that was with? I can't.
I think it was Waterfront. Was it in Waterfront?
Yeah, it would have been a Waterfront.
I think it was Waterfront, yeah. And you were singing on that, were you singing? Was it Kaiser singing on?
Kaiser was singing, and if you listen, I'm on backing vocals, I think, on that. Right. There's a record came out.
It's funny when you like the Beachy Normandy track, when you hear it, it sounds like Stone Roses. It sounds like Ian, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The vocal style.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, very much so.
Amazing. Yeah. And Kaiser's still around, is he?
Kaiser's still around, yeah. And like I said to you earlier, I saw him in Portrush in Northern Ireland last weekend, on scooters.
Amazing. Still on scooters?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Going back to when you were into the glam music and all that, were you aware of 10cc and did being from Stockport,
well, the thing
did this place crop up in you?
It did all the time, because of, because obviously from Stockport, But I was, as a little kid, I always thought there was some weird connection with the Beatles for some reason. Because we had Sergeant Pepper's over the road, which was a nightclub, and it was Strawberry Studios, and in my kid's head, Strawberry Fields Forever and all that sort of nonsense, yeah.
Plus there was a big Paul McCartney story, wasn't there? One
there was a Paul McCartney story, yeah.
That's mad to think McCartney's been in here as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think everyone's been in here.
Bay City Rollers.
Yeah.
I bet you liked them at the time, didn't you?
I did, never liked the Bay City Rollers, no.
They were sort of presented, I think I was the same. I like the music.
They were a girls' band,
yeah, for the girls. You weren't really allowed to say,
No,
I think that's a good tune, isn't it?
No.
Bye Bye Baby tune.
No.
You couldn't say that, could you?
No, definitely not, no.
Right.
But yeah, so it was I was aware of it, this place, yeah. And the other one in, what's it called, Revolution, yeah. There was always talking that place as well. Cheadle, I think, yeah.
Yeah. And when was the first time you actually stepped in here? Would it be to do the first sessions for the Roses, what became Garage Flower album?
This, So Young and Tell Me.
Yeah.
Which was done separately than that, yeah. That's the first time I came in here with Martin Hannett, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was everything you can imagine a 1970s studio would be, with shed pile carpets on the walls and smoke mirrors and fantastic place, yeah, you know.
And a crazy producer, was that the first time you met him?
No, he'd been coming to rehearsals. I think the manager Howard had got him involved, and so he'd come down to a few rehearsals to get his ears bashed, you know. But
what were your first memories of him?
We were all really, really impressed with Martin because he produced Slaughter on the Dogs.
Right, yeah.
Nothing to do with Joy Division. Yeah. You know, and I was a huge Joy Division fan. I saw Joy Division loads of times. I'm a massive fan of him. But it didn't really bear any relevance at all to us at that point. Because we just like Slaughter on the Dogs, you know.
And he'd done that.
And he'd done, but it cranked up really high, hadn't he? Which is...
And what was he like personality-wise at that point? Was he not as bad as he was when you came back with the High? He was still probably a bit more lucid?
No, he was never lucid. No, he was always completely fucked, wasn't he, really? Yeah. He was very, very eccentric, and you could never work out whether it was just because he was drugged up or whether he was just a weirdo, you know.
Or just battle-scarred from all the drugs.
He was. I mean, he was in a mess. I mean, I remember last few times we recorded him with the High, he'd gone green.
Right.
He had a horrible green palette to his skin, you know, which was...
Yeah.
But, you know, he was still all there, but strange bloke.
Yeah.
But I always got on really well with Martin. Not a lot of people... I know the other lads in the band didn't. John and Ian didn't get on with him at all, but I got on really well with Martin.
Right. Why do you think that would be?
I don't know, really. I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea.
To say that was your first record that you ever made, it's pretty cool, that, isn't it?
Yeah, we did the drums. You remember they had another one over there, Yellow 2?
Yeah.
So we did the drums over there, and then came back here to do the rest of it, yeah.
Right. And then through that, so it was 1985, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So between January and August, you recorded all the sessions that became that.
Yeah, I don't know the dates we did it, but I know, over a period of time, all on downtime, and from 9 o'clock at night till 9 in the morning.
Yeah.
And just complete madness, and Martin was off his head all the time, completely.
Did they used to call it lockout, that session? Lockout?
Lockout, yeah.
Through the night?
Yeah. And so he got a deal with Strawberry where if they had any downtime, he could use it free for him to use, like the NHS, free at the point of use.
Right,
and he could sort them out later, one of those sorts of things. So we benefited from that. Well, I thought we benefited from it anyway, but I know Ian hates it.
He hates that record?
Oh, he hates it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it all stems from, I remember the sessions were hard. It's like recording, everyone gets a bit fraught, egos get going and all the rest of it. But I remember Ian saying to Martin, he was complaining about the vocals, and he said, "What are you going to do about the vocal sound?" And he said, Martin said, "Nothing, that's what you sound like." so obviously I don't think...
But it still excites you, that record?
Yeah, I've always really liked it. I can see the limitations to it. It was the first set of songs we ever wrote together, and it was our first set that we played live. Right. Basically, we just came in here, and
did the set.
Yeah, I mean, he took all Rennie's drums off him, and put him on the fucking roof, you know. He stripped his kit. All he had was his bass drum and his snare. The rest of it, he made him overdub.
Wow.
The hi-hats and the cymbals and the toms and everything, they're all overdubs, you know.
Do you remember how Rennie felt about that? Because you can't imagine Rennie. No, I can't imagine being happy with that.
No, he wasn't.
Somebody who's such a fluid machine on the kit.
That's right, yeah. So he wasn't happy about that. But, you know, it's our first time in the studio. We didn't know.
Yeah.
We thought, maybe that's how you do it.
It's an amazing document of where your band were at that point. Why did it not come out? What happened next?
Ian didn't like it. That was it, really.
Right. And when it eventually came out, I mean,
he did us a favour though, Martin, because when we came in here, I mean, about here, he had Pete Garner, who was the bass player at the time. He had him overdubbing some bass in the control room, and we were all downstairs. They had a pool room downstairs. We were all downstairs playing pool and blowing eggs up in a microwave, you know, like you do, you know. And Martin said, go upstairs and write me something.
Yeah.
And we came up here, Rennie was up on the roof, and myself, John and Ian, and we wrote, this is the one here.
Really?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Just one night, yeah. It was.
Amazing.
So, it did us a favour, really. But yes, it did eventually come out.
Yeah. 96.
96.
Was that like just a self-release? Was it you guys?
No, it wasn't. No, and this is loads of myths about this and everything. But Zomba released it.
All right. Okay.
Silvertone Zomba. They released it. They owned the rights to any recordings that the band had done, not just when they were signed to them, but prior to them signing as well. As part of the deal with John and Ian signed. I wasn't party to it.
Yeah.
Part of the deal they signed was any recordings prior, they owned.
Right.
And I had Martin's tapes, mix.
Yeah.
And they said, they're ours.
Right.
I had to give them the tapes. They've still got them. And there it is there.
Yeah.
But there's a big myth because Ian hates it. He didn't want anyone to think he had anything. He was party to its release, hence the myth around the fact that it's either a bootleg or it's a band release or whatever it is, you know.
Right, it was Zomba.
Yeah.
So around that same time, you got pretty close to Martin during those sessions.
Yeah, and later as well with the high, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you used to drive him about, apparently. Tell me.
I did, yeah. I was always driving him around. Yeah. I used to take him to his doctors, you know.
Right.
He had a blue pill at this time, and a yellow pill at that time, and private prescriptions all the time. He had a private doctor in Macclesfield that used to supply him with all sorts of whatever I think he needed.
Right, yeah. Medication.
So I used to take him there,
Yeah. And tell us a story about Hookie's Bass. So Martin told you a story.
I was just going to say, I'll tell you that I did go with him one day. Martin said, Andy, can you pick me up? I said, yeah, of course I can, Martin. Yeah, where are we going? Factory. So, okay, Martin. Right. So we went to Factory's offices in Didsbury, you know, the big house.
Yeah.
And he said, come in with me. And we went in, and he wasn't welcome in there because they'd had a fallout and there was all that stuff around him shooting a gun off in there and all that. And he said, come in with me, I won't be a minute, hold that. He gave me a bag. We went in and he just emptied all the shelves of all the product in there into the bag and said, these are mine.
Wow.
And we left. Nobody stopped him, you know, he's like, incredible. Yeah, I know.
He told you a story once.
He did, yes.
Might or might not be true, but
it's it's a very funny story. Yeah, so he told me that while they were recording Unknown Pleasures, he was very particular about getting sounds. He wanted Martin, and he'd fuck around for hours getting sounds. But Hookie, he said, was always changing his sound, messing with the settings on his amp. So he told me that one night, once he'd finished recording, he got Hookie's bass amp and took it to Strawberry Rentals, who did amplifier repairs and things below the studios. Took the amp to them and had them hardwire all the pots so that no matter what you did with the knobs, it didn't change the settings at all.
Right. But they still turned?
Oh, they all turned, yeah, so you could have the impression you were changing the sound. But he was quite happy to just leave him alone doing that then, yeah.
And did he tell you as well, was it Martin said that the Doors...
Yeah.
Because earliest recordings influences...
Yeah, because I was a huge Joy Division fan, so I started talking to him about Joy Division and recordings and things, and he his one-liner was, yes, it's all very simple, really. The night before the session started, I just listened to the first Doors album and pinched all the production values, which I think is a bit of a artistic license on his part there.
I think it's like probably simplicity and space, I'm guessing, is two words that conjure up to me when listening to each of those albums.
Yeah, I suppose, I think, if you listen, I always saw a similarity in the way they treated the vocals. But, that's just my ears,
Yeah. So how do you feel when you heard that Martin had passed away?
I was really upset about it, actually. So, leading up to his death, he'd had loads of financial problems, Martin, and again, he'd been shafted by everybody, like bloody music business. But, and he was living in a house in Chorlton, and I helped him move house. They were being evicted, and I literally helped him move house. I had a van. I helped him move all his gear, what was left of his record collection, hi-fi, including the kitchen sink. And I'm not joking, I took the kitchen sink out of one house and took it to the next house and put it in for him. Right. So it's literally just like that. And he moved to an ex-council house in Burnage, I think it was. And it was a hovel, an absolute hovel. And I felt really sorry for him. But he moved in and everything, and took his filthy old settee and all his gear, and he had nothing really. And they were him and Wendy were a real low, and I remember lending him some money and just generally trying to look after him, because I'd become really good friends with Martin, and I think they'd been there less than a week, and I got a phone call. I was around from the then girlfriend's house, got a phone call, and I think it might have been Wendy, and she said, "Oh, Martin died last night," and I'm welling up now thinking about it. To me, it's really upsetting. It did really upset me, It's, and he just sat down at at that point felt old, but he was 42, which is no age really, is it? He'd sat down at 42 and had a massive heart attack in the night. And I think all the stress of moving house and all the other things that were going on in his life, he was desperately chasing money. He got Wendy and Martin, what's his son called now? I remember his son's name. James. Right. James and the daughter, Wendy's daughter. He was looking after them. All those sorts of stresses and everything, coupled with the fact he had really ill health. And like I said earlier, he'd gone green. He had a terrible green pallor to his skin. Nobody wanted to work with him anymore because he was in such a mess. And when you did work with him, he was so desperate for money and drugs, and it was ugly, So, I was really upset about it. Knocked me for six, really. And the high, for me, I'd always, so whenever I was thinking about ideas for writing and things that we'd knock out in rehearsals and things, I always had Martin's production in my head, because we did a load of, the very last recordings I think he did were with us, and I wanted Martin to do the next load of stuff. And so it knocked that for six as well, really. I was really upset about it, quite shocked me, really.
It's funny because it's like a lot of us around him, I mean, I didn't know him obviously as well as you did, but I think we knew him as part of the circus that we're all involved with. Whereas with you, it's obvious you were much closer.
You had
a real
Martin,
connection. And it's nice when you talk about it, and then the sun came out, it's like something got really light in it, and illuminated the spot where he did his finest work over there.
Well, maybe that's it, See, like I have got a bit of a, sorry.
Well, in the Peter Hook
episode,
does upset
me,
we did talk about the ghost of Martin Hannett when we did the Hooky one as well. He's still in this room, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't think he'd be pleased about that, to be honest. Because I remember
he's waiting for you to come and pick him up, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right. It used to freak him out a bit, the lift and everything. Because I think Ian Curtis's death really hurt Martin. It really, he used to get quite emotional when he talked about working with Ian in it. But anyway,
he's still with us, isn't he? In a funny sort of way.
Yeah, but and full circle. The last time I really saw. Well, it's the last time I saw John Squire and I bumped into Ian a few times since. Was at Martin's funeral,
Yeah.
which was a horribly sad day as well, but... Yeah.
What's your favourite music that Martin produced for you?
Joy Division, I never liked New Order.
Right.
I don't know why.
What about favourite stuff that he's done with you, though? That's what I'm saying. Like, if there's one track that
Martin did with us?
Yeah. Either with the Roses or the High?
Well, with the High, a track called PWA, which still now to me sounds... he's got that... He could occasionally, Martin, drag something out of you in the studio that was beyond everything you were yourself and beyond the band was. And that one track, he really sort of... I listen back to it now and think, wow. You know, Roses, there was a track on here, can't remember the bloody title of it now. Whose idea is this?
There you go, the track list. A bit more understandable there.
I can't even read it.
I feel like a cop interrogating somebody who's in custody again. Do you recognise any of these names?
Yeah.
Mr. Couzens? Are you going to play ball?
Is it definitely on there? Yeah, well, I can't remember which one it is, you know. I think it, I think it's Trust a Fox.
Right.
Which captures a sort of strange aggression.
Nice. Like the sound of that.
Yeah.
I'll get that. So moving on from, soon after that, you decided to leave the Roses, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Why was that?
God. You got an hour or two.
Did a abridged version.
I get to quote myself from the time. I was sold out for a bowl of spaghetti and a haircut.
Right.
A free haircut, that is.
So meaning like, you were putting a lot of effort in, not getting much out in terms of...
No, I felt like we'd all set out together, doing the thing together, and it became very apparent that John and Ian were doing their thing.
Right.
And it was no longer a together thing.
Right.
I'm trying to be as polite as I can.
Totally. You know what, I've been in the band a long time, and our singer Stephen left in 1988, late 88, he left because, you know, it sounds... In recent years, I've heard him saying because the dynamic changed so much within the band. He started the band with Graham, and then suddenly there's all these Herberts like me in there, and things started changing a bit. So I think he left for exactly the same reason. So it's not.
Yeah, it's the last meeting I had with them probably sums it up really. There was Gareth, John and Ian sat there, Pete Garner and Rennie sat there. Myself sat here on my own, and a friend of mine who's a lawyer who was helping sat over there, and Gareth was giving it that about me being nouveau riche and about me being why do I eat when they don't eat, and he was really laying into me about stuff that really, you know, it's irrelevant really. Yeah. And I turned to John and Ian and said, "Are you having this?" And they both went like that. So I stood up and walked out, so you can fuck off.
So you left?
Yep, that was that, yeah.
And then seeing what happened next with them, did that bother you, the success they got with that first album, or you moved on completely at that point?
Did it bother me? No, not really, no. I mean, sometimes I'd hear things and think, a pair of wankers, you know, but no, not really, no. You know, I mean, I didn't feel bitter about it at all. I gave, you know, I mean, 2 days later I took them all the gear back, you know. I mean, if I was feeling bitter, I'd have kept the bloody guitars and everything. But no, no, I was a bit pissed off at one point when they re-released this. Now, I paid for this.
Right.
Martin was 50 quid a day, and the studio time was 1,000 quid, and I paid for it, which doesn't sound like a lot of money now, but in 1985, quite a bit of money. And you know, they never even asked me about putting it back out, you know, and that pissed me off. And then years later, I find out that the Sally Cinnamon recording off Pete Garner, I found out that they'd put that out as well, the one with me on it. No one ever told me, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So things like that, yeah. But I'm not bothered really.
Well, you came out with this pretty quick. You got onto the high pretty soon after, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
A couple of old mates of mine, Chris Goodwin and John Matthews.
Yeah, you don't want to get negative about all that shit.
No, you're right.
It's,
I think we all know that it's like...
It's difficult. There's nothing worse than band politics.
Yeah.
And being in a band, you sort of bare your soul to people, and when they sort of turn around and spit on it, it can hurt a bit. But yeah, it's what
rock
it is.
Rock and roll, innit?
Yeah, it is exactly.
Rock and roll. Yeah. How did you end up with the high then? Was it Steve Diggle business? You were doing the Cox FOC? Is that how you ended up with?
Yeah. So Chris Goodwin was playing with Steve Diggle, doing gigs with Diggle.
Yeah, in between. So the Buzzcocks had sort of stopped. He was doing Flag of Convenience.
It was, yeah.
Which was vaguely Buzzcocks related as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It was just Flag of Convenience, wasn't it? FOC, yeah. And he was struggling, Steve, I think, financially at the time anyway, but... and struggling to get noticed because Buzzcocks is a hard act to follow, isn't it? Let's face it.
Yeah, totally.
And Chris was playing drums for him, and they needed another guitar player, and I hadn't even thought about anything for a bit. But and Chris said, "I'll get Andy in." So I started doing that. Then Diggle's bass player left, and I got an old friend of my brother's to come in and play bass for a bit.
Yeah.
And then we sacked Diggle.
Right. and
got another singer.
So basically, it was the band that was FOC became the high.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Are you still in touch with Diggle?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't like me.
Oh, does he not? I still speak to the kid.
Do you? Yeah. I've not seen him for a long time.
Still breathing.
I think he was a bit upset about it at the time.
Yeah, probably didn't go down very well, stealing his band.
No.
So the high, that was a great moment in time as well, because it was, to me, I mean, not only as friends of the guys in the band, but, fellow musicians, a fan of the band. They were like the closest Britain had to R.E.M. at the time. That's what I was a big R.E.M. fan, and I totally heard that. I know that John and Chris are massive R.E.M. fans.
They were, yeah.
Tell us, first of all, how it became high. Was it just a case of Diggle's gone, let's get a new singer?
Yeah.
Simple as that?
Yeah.
And how soon were you writing and recording after that?
I got loads of ideas anyway, and I got bits and pieces that I'd carried over from that John and Ian were interested in as well. So.
Right. So some of the songs on the first High album could have actually ended up being...
Up and Down in particular, I'd got Up and Down, the basic bones of that, but John wasn't interested. So.
Right. And pretty over the space of a few months, it seemed that things were happening pretty fast for the High. You got the top of the pops and good radio coverage.
We did, yeah. I mean, we supported you, I think, didn't we? At the Ritz. We got signed that night at the Ritz.
Yeah,
that was our first gig. We'd only been together really a few months with Chris, with John rather, the singer, and only got half a dozen songs really as well. But
and it seemed like a happy camp as well. From what I remember, it seemed like it was a lot of harmony and good chemistry.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, it was a good time. Yeah, and like all these things. Yeah, at one point I lost the plot, and I don't think anyone else had one. But it was good.
Yeah. And you were working with Anna. He didn't do the entire album, but he
no, I do regret that now. But he was in a mess, Martin.
Yeah.
And we did all the first sessions with Martin, the first single, and all this stuff. The whole
album. Was this like 1992? Was it?
1990.
Was it 90 at the start?
Yeah.
Sorry, I remember the second album, right? So 90, yeah.
Yeah, and worked here with Martin. Did loads of stuff again, all at night, and far too much gear and all the rest of it going on, but Martin's thing was speedballs,
Right. And I think, weren't they some of the last recordings he ever did, or were they the last recordings he ever did?
That's a bit later, that, yeah. So that was 90 with the earlier High stuff, yeah. Box Set Go was his first single that came out of those sessions, and we were going on then to record the album. But Martin was a right mess, and because so I was still picking him up, driving him around, and we had to take Martin to a friend of mine who's a hairdresser to get his hair washed and cut, and And he said, when the hairdresser asked him about it, he said, I showed it a comb last March, you know, it's like a year and a half ago, something like that. And he was filthy, basically. So we had to bought him a load of clothes, got his hair washed and cut for him, bought him some shoes. So a funny story with his shoes was, we were in here recording, and I think there was, on those sessions, and Rennie's snare snapped, you know, on the side of the drum.
Yeah.
And we used one of Martin's laces to fix the snare at the side.
Yeah.
And 12 months later, I saw him in the Ritz, he still had no lace in his shoe.
Wow.
So he's that fucked up, Martin, you know, he's just on another planet altogether.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've done all those recordings here, but he was in a mess. So when it came to recording the first album, I seem to remember the general consensus was that he was too fucked up to do it.
Right.
Which is a shame, because I really wanted him to do it, but the thought of Martin in a residential studio with us and with all the madness that goes with him, you know.
Yeah. And you being his full-time carer.
And driver, yeah. It stuck in the middle of Oxfordshire, looking for the local drug dealer.
Did you do it residential?
Yeah, it's residential, the Manor Studios, which is where, it's really a great place, where they did Tubular Bells and all things. Yeah. Brilliant place.
I've never been there, but it's legendary, isn't it?
Yeah, huge house with this massive... The studio was designed by the same people who designed Strawberry's control room. So the control room and main recording area was just like here.
Really?
Same speaker setup, same cork tile, same glass, you know, stained mirrored bloody windows everywhere and all. Yeah. So it was like home from home, really, but fantastic place.
And who was it? Was it John Williams that produced it?
John Williams.
So who brought him in? Was that the label that brought him in?
It was the label, yeah. Sort of got foisted on us, but really, you know, he just recorded us live. You know, that's what we sounded like live. You know, there was no real production in that sense of things. You know, no arrangements or no real changes to anything that we did. You know, it's just. But at the time, all I was bothered about. I remember saying to somebody that all I was bothered about really was that I'd be able to listen back to it in 25 years' time without cringing, and I can still listen to it. And it still sounds pretty good to me. So, yeah.
So I mean, that was an interesting chapter for you, wasn't it? Because you had the momentum from the first album, and you know the success at the top of the pops and the hit singles and lovely records behind it, big budgets. Yeah. The Manor, John Williams, big producer. Why was that second album? Why did it stall? Because that was.
Well, I said I lost the plot. No one else had one. So on the day that we went into sort of routine the first album, so laid down all the tracks. Just do a demo of them all. We were in a studio in London, I can't remember the name of it now, and I got a phone call, my dad was dying.
Right.
So we played everything, I jumped in my car and drove home, and my dad died that night. Wow. And I can't listen to that recording, because it sounds like, the thing about recording is it picks up the mood of the room as well, doesn't it? Yeah. And it very much captured that. So I was fucked up, really. Right. And my dad left a right mess behind. So my mum was in a mess. She was only, Christ, I mean, I'm 60 odd now. My mum was 49, I think, when he died,
So still young.
And he left her at financial mess. My mum's house was being repossessed, all sorts of fucking rubbish. So and all that fell on me. You know, I was the eldest, so it felt like it fell on me. The younger brother might tell you differently, but it certainly felt like that way. So I had no idea.
So that was pretty much the end of it. Yeah,
and the label had also been caught. So I mean, like record labels, I hate record labels. I hate the music business. They're so derogatory of it, the artist. They had a situation with a single called More, which was sort of, Martin is the last thing we recorded with Martin. Yeah. A really good single. And they had a situation where they could spend 20 grand on a marketing campaign, or spend 10 grand and send a buying team out to go and fiddle the chart return shops. Yeah. So you know exactly which one they're going to go for.
Sending people into shops to buy multiple copies.
Yeah. So they went for the cheaper option.
Yeah.
And we knew nothing about it, but they got caught doing it on the same day from Lenny Kravitz got caught. His label got caught doing the same thing, you know. But it was rife. It probably still is.
I remember happening because we all knew what it was. It was just routine within the music industry. Yeah. But that was the first time where it ended up in the newspapers, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And issue.
Yeah, we got absolutely battered for it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that took the wind out of our sails a lot. Then the things with we started recording the second album with my dad, and we did finish the second album, but that makes me cringe when I listen to it.
Really?
Yeah. The production's terrible.
Oh, the whole of the second album you're talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We're so proud of the first one.
Yeah, I really like the first one. And there are some really good songs on the second one.
Yeah.
That there's probably a good EP on it,
yeah.
but a lot of it, the production is awful. And it's because I didn't give a shit, really.
Yeah. You reformed it a few years ago. Is it still sort of ongoing, the High?
No. We just did those gigs, and we did a few gigs with my son was playing drums,
right, yeah.
Which was great, you know.
Yeah.
What a buzz, you know.
My son's in our band now.
You know, he said,
He joined at 18, he's 19 now.
Yeah.
Got more money in the bank than we've got. But it's brilliant as a dad. It's like seeing him on stage and
it was fantastic. Yeah, I got a real buzz out of it. Yeah. And then I've never been more upset than when he said, "I've had enough of that, Dad."
Really? Is that what happened? You probably weren't paying him enough because my man's like can't get enough of it. He's like, "Can we get some more gigs, Dad?"
Yeah, I've had enough of that, Dad. I'm going to go do my own things. And he really did. He just dropped me straight in it. Right. You can't say anything. It's your son,
so there's still potential then to do more High stuff if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Why don't you revisit that second album and re-record the tracks that you're not happy with? That'd be a nice document.
Yeah, I never thought of that, yeah.
Get it done, man.
Yeah, I still speak to John Matthews. He only lives...
He's not far away, is he?
He lives like a mile from me, you know, and he's a bit of a weirdo, John, you know, but he's all right.
It's always been very enigmatic, hasn't he? I've always found him... I knew him, young lad in Shaw, he was like... Even, was it Turning Blue was his first band? So I used to I produced their first demos.
Did you? Right, okay. I came there, didn't I?
That's right,
I just remembered that, yeah.
So we had the mill, we spend every Sunday for well over a year and a half, me, Manny and Chris down there just messing about music, doing recordings on my 4-track setup. And Manny told us that you and Ian were looking to form a band, so it must have been in between bands if.
Yeah.
And you came
that's
along
right,
to the jam
me and Ian, we did.
You were a big fancy American car, I can't remember where it was. Big red guitar as well.
Did I come in that car?
Yeah, you came in an American car. I think you still had your Rickenbacker. I think, did you have a red Rickenbacker, was that?
It's might have been a Hofner then, actually, yeah.
But anyway, so you came and jammed with us, Ian we gave Ian a mic and...
all went like that.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. At that point, we were like Einstein's End of Neubauten meets the Velvet Underground. Right. It was like just fucking bonkers music and smashing bottles into dustbins and recording them and driving the best one that I ever did. I actually had a cheap microphone. I set it to record, put it on the floor, so it's recording the sound of the ambience in this factory, the mill. And I drove the forklift truck over the mic. So you got this recording,
deliberately.
The microphone recording its last moments. It's like a fucking brilliant bit of recording. Well, that's the kind of thing we're doing, and I remember you just playing along and Ian looking like a bit confused.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But it was just, I think it'd gone in like 20 minutes or something.
Right.
That would have been a super group, that, wouldn't it?
I bought that car back.
Did you?
Yeah, last year, yeah.
Really? So
the same one, the same car, yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. What kind of car is it?
It's a 1955 Chevrolet.
Nice.
Yeah. Brilliant. Which I always regretted selling. I sold it to buy a truck to go to Sweden in.
Right.
With this lot. Yeah.
Right, amazing. Wow. So going back to, do you want me to say something you want to interject in there, John?
No, it's just what he said about going to Sweden.
The Swedish trip, we talked about. Should we cut in for the Swedish trip? Because that was quite a big deal at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Let me cut in there, yeah, so...
Right, okay.
So you mentioned that Sweden trip. I remember that happening and it being, on the local scene. It was big news, that.
We took a full-page advert out in the NME. Talk about blow your own trumpets.
Yeah.
But it was in Swedish, so nobody knew what the fuck it was.
But proper true Stone Roses, that one.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But yeah, it was that was mental going over there. It really was. Yeah, because we just literally got in my truck with the gear and drove there.
Did some gigs.
We got on the ferry at Hull or wherever the hell it was. Got off at Gothenburg, drove up. And load of dates. In fact, there's a picture I noticed on the back of that cover there. That's Pete Garner jumping off the top of a bus at one of the venues in Sweden. Yeah.
It was like, we got Train Surfing was our second album second EP, but there's pictures of kids on trains.
Right. Okay.
In South America.
Right. Okay.
It was that one, wasn't it? That's what that was. Train Surfing. Yeah, brilliant. Let's go back to talk about Strawberry, which is the main reason we're here.
Martin, funnily enough, did come out to Sweden went out to Sweden on our tales, if you like.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and recorded did some producing over there as well, yeah.
For Swedish bands?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I can't remember who they were now, but I know they frightened him to death.
Yeah.
He frightened them to death, you know.
Yeah. When you look at his discography of that stuff he did, it's phenomenal. But the range he covered. Yeah. Like he did actually produce a U2 track at least.
He did, yeah, he did.
He did some amazing work. Going back to Strawberry the building then, and the fact that 10cc did what they did when they did it at the end of the 60s, early 70s were, the temptation for anybody in that position would have been, let's take our money and go down to London and do something down there. Them staying up here, a lot of us think probably influenced Tony Wilson to do the same a few years later. More than likely, yeah. The obvious thing for Tony would have been to, get to London, set up his label, whatever. But do you think 10cc were pioneers in that sort of mindset?
Yeah, they obviously like the home comforts, yeah. Who wants to move down there when you can, take everything here?
They've got a nice pub across the road as well.
Yeah, and they used to deliver beer on a tray if you rang them. Yeah. Trays of Guinness they used to bring over. But yeah, seriously, I think they definitely helped spawn a lot of what went on in Stockport, Manchester, because to have a world-class recording studio on your doorstep was quite something, wasn't it? Because they were few and far between then. It's not like nowadays, is it, where you can record on something that size,
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of musicians, a lot of even successful musicians these days won't get to see that kind of setup that was, familiar to us a lot.
Yeah, like I say, world-class recording studio on your doorstep. You can actually go in and use and get in there for free as well sometimes, it's fantastic.
Are you the kind of person that gets goosebumps when you're back in a spot like this? I mean, I'm bad for it, me. I'm
a bit phased, to be honest, because I do remember being just here. However long ago it is, must be 40 years ago nearly.
Nearly enough 40 years.
Yeah.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's still the same window there. It's
I know,
It's quite ghostly, isn't it, when you think about what that window's seen. It was boarded up. I might have mentioned this in previous podcasts, but the first time I came back in here 5 years ago, whatever, it was completely boarded up, the window, and I'm like, I know what that is. I recognise the shape of it. Yeah, it's amazing. So what's happening in your world these days?
Musically?
Anything.
Just getting on with life, really, Clint. I still play, but I just play with myself. Well, play on my own. No, I said play with myself, but play on my own every day.
We all have our moments.
So I still play, still tinkering a bit, but no, I'm not. The thought of trying to get 4 or 5 blokes together at the same time to do the same thing, it just seems like too much hard work to me.
It's not as easy when life takes over and everybody's got families and commitments and all that.
But just carrying on.
Brilliant.
Watch my son. My son's in a band, so.
What's his band called?
They're called Balancing Act,
right.
And they're doing pretty well. He buggered off after he left. Playing for his dad and moved to London and got as far away as he could from me.
Brilliant.
But he's down there. He's gigging and writing and recording. So
chasing his dream.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure catching up with you, Andy.
Yeah.
And,
cheers, Clint.
Yeah, great to see. What story, man? What story?
Yeah.
I think you should get some more get the eye back together and get some recordings done.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe it's not a bad idea.
So, funnily enough, like when the Roses first became the Roses. Your first gig wasn't in Manchester, was it?
No, it wasn't. We played the Moonlight Club in London because we couldn't get a gig in Manchester. It was a closed shop, Manchester, and Tony Wilson didn't like us at all. Partly because I think because we were objectionable, horrible little fuckers.
The attitude.
The attitude, and also we'd defaced his wonderful city with some graffiti, and I think Ian and Rennie did it actually. But
it's funny, I stop on that one because I remember that as a news story at the time.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
And all it was like the black
it was
spray
red.
can stone. Was it red?
It was
Rolling
red,
Stone Roses being on the library.
Yeah.
But by today's standards, that was nothing, was it? That in terms of graffiti.
No.
But back then it was on the front page of the newspapers, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It's such a colloquial little place, Manchester at the time. It's like a little village, you know.
But it got that name out there, didn't it?
I suppose it did, yeah. But it seemed to get us absolutely nowhere. We just sort of got. If they could have marched us out of the place, I think they would have done.
Right.
And so consequently, first gig was in London, yeah.
Right.
And famously, that's the one where Pete Townsend was in the audience and borrowed Rennie afterwards and got up and did a few songs, which is completely mad if you think about it.
Absolutely, yeah. How old was Rennie then? Like,
he wasn't even. He would have been 20, I don't think.
And Pete Townsend wanted him as his drummer after that night, didn't he? Apparently?
Yeah, well, he loved it. He came up, and we were all like, "Yeah, fuck off, you old swat." But he was probably all of 40 or something at the time. But none of us were that impressed. But he was going mad about. He just watched us, and he'd seen Rennie playing, and he was like, "I want to borrow your drummer," and and he got on. I think he did get filled again and something else with Rennie on drums.
Pretty amazing, that, isn't it?
Yeah, and we all went, so what? Yeah, anyway, it's time to go home now.
But those early gigs, I remember well because we travelled around a lot. Me, Manny and Chris, Lee Butterworth would come and see the Preston Clouds gig was famous.
Because of the attitude, I think, and because we were different, and as Rose said, we sounded like people scratching nails down blackboards. It offended a lot of people. It got up people's backs, They were really angry, and everywhere we went, there'd be fights breaking out, and Ian would go into the audience, and there'd be all sorts of trouble everywhere.
Yeah.
And I told you that story about in Sweden where Ian walked out into a crowd. Originally, it was because everyone used to stand too far away.
Yeah.
So he said, right, if you're not coming to us, well, we're going to come to you.
The long mic lead.
Yeah, long mic lead, yeah. And he walked out into this audience in Sweden, and somebody pulled a gun. Now, most of us were all like playing like this, but Ian walked up to the guy and just put the barrel in his mouth. And the guy just put it away, It's just,
But it wasn't such a confrontational mood, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the band with the audience. But it wasn't like, thank you.
But that was deliberate, because we felt like we were trying to shake everyone out of whatever boredom they were in, because everyone was pretty boring, I think, at the time,
And in some ways, it was ultimate punk, wasn't it?
It was a very punk attitude, I think, yeah.
So the outstanding things to me about the early Roses was you sort of did things that were quite pioneering at the time, that weren't the done thing. I mean, later on, obviously, doing Blackpool
warehouse parties.
Yeah, that's the warehouse parties.
Those,
absolutely, they were pioneering, and you took a busload of people to London to play Dingwalls.
Apparently so, I'd forgotten about that, but there was a gig at Dingwalls, Which,
were these ideas generated by the band or the management, or was it Steve Hadge? He was involved in quite outside the box thinker.
I don't think the Dingwalls thing was. We just got lumped onto it. I think somehow. I can't remember who came up with that. But the warehouse parties, I know Steve always says it was his idea, but I seem to remember it being our idea. But anyway, it's probably a joint. All start chatting and. But I remember playing the Dingwalls gig because it was. There was a lot of other Mancunians there, now you mention it, and a band called Laugh, who later on I think became Interstellar, but without Stella there, obviously.
Yeah.
Because I remember we had to, they were on before us, and they decided they were going to overstay their welcome, so we went and sat up while they were still playing, you know, and manoeuvred them off. But yeah,
I remember seeing Laugh when, because we were fans of them, and they were just, at one point they were just a great guitar band. We went looking at Sweet 16 in Rochdale with to recording our first single, The Inspirals. And we went visiting, I think a week or two before our session, and Laugh were in there one night, so we were chatting to them, they were showing all the gear. And they were using a sampler, first time I'd seen an Akai sampler.
Really, yeah. Wow.
And they had it, so they were a guitar band that was starting to play with samples and click tracks and sequences and all that. And to us that was like, whoa, guitar band doing that. That was for dance musicians, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's great to see them in their own ways, you know, pioneering something a bit new.
Yeah, I remember working on one of these tracks here with Martin in here. He had, so they'd obviously got the 2-inch tape recorder there with a multi-track and everything, but he had an Atari computer with multiple tracks linked to it, with and it was that thing that would boom, beep, 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 boom, beep, 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 constant, and that was a revelation at the time, because you could, I think he used 12 tracks to build up one guitar chord one night during a coked up frenzy, you know.
Yeah.
So,
did he do that with you? When Martin, I heard it from Ucky that when it came time to mix the tracks, he'd lock himself in the studio, get the band out of there.
Yeah. He used to let me in though.
Did he?
Yeah,
because you were his driver.
Well, I was his driver, yeah. But yeah,
lifeline.
But he used to, he used to tell everyone, get the fuck out, you know. And then he put the air conditioning on full, so the room was bitterly cold. So much so that if you left a guitar or anything in there, it went so out of tune. Really? It took hours and hours for the
and was
thing
that
to
make it
down.
more inhospitable for people?
Yeah.
So they don't want to be in there?
Yeah, because the air conditioning units were all at the back of the room, where the seats were for anybody wanting to listen. And him and Chris Nagel would sit by the desk, where it was relatively warm. But also Martin was a junkie, so he was sweating all the time, so he needed to keep cool, you know. So.
Let's talk about this record here, because this has got a Stockport connection, not recorded at Strawberry, but up in Bredbury of all places.
It was recorded in Bredbury, yeah. Although there is another version of it as well, they recorded in Macclesfield without me, but the one with me
this
on
one's
it.
better.
I think so, yeah.
So tell us about the Yacht Club, was it called, the studio?
Yeah, I hadn't remembered what it was called. I remembered exactly where it was and everything, but I subsequently found out. And it was just a very damp little demo studio in Bredbury, which not a lot of gear in there from what I remember. But my overriding memory of it is it smelt really damp. You know? But they always do, don't they? Cheap places.
It was called the Yacht Club because it was always flooded.
That's what I found out.
So that's why it would be smelling damp. And who produced this one?
Well, I suppose it was us and whoever was the engineer on the day.
Simon,
I don't think it is. I think that's right.
Mick Brophy.
Yeah.
Was it that? So that was his studio, was it? Yeah.
Because that's the thing with that. There's two versions of it knocking about. One says single version, the other one says 12-inch version. But there's the same credits for all of them. You know, even though nobody cares, do they? You know, record companies just put them out, don't they? They don't give a fuck who's on it or anything, do they? Really?
Are you familiar with the Eve Studios in Bredbury?
I don't know
That's
it. No.
The revelation when you see that place. It's incredible.
Yeah. Is that
a guy called Martin who owns it? Is it Martin?
Is that the one that
Jim Spencer works there, but it's full of, it's like a history of, it's a museum of analogue equipment.
Is that one Blossoms did those early venue things out?
Absolutely, Well, Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you after all these years.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're looking good.
See you soon.
Still breathing.
Thanks.
Still breathing, aren't we?
Yeah, still stood up. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks,
See you soon,
Clint.
brother. Yeah.